majority of the world's minds, our oceans look like this: healthy, teeming with wildlife. However, most people aren't aware of what is really happening. Even worse, many are and consciously choose to ignore our ocean's plight. We in History of the Oceans gain insight to the real issues our oceans face. These include industrialization, ocean acidification, overfishing, and more. It begs the question, so what? Why should anyone care? I could have chosen the traditional education route that throws knowledge at groups of people in a classroom, but I was looking to tap into a more physical outlet that would lead me to people's hearts. I didn't want to contribute to the onslaught of information people have to process every day, that ultimately goes in one ear and out the other.
Anyone?
I wanted to figure out something that allowed people to form a connection to the ocean, a connection that in turn ignites a passion, leading people to care about all these ocean problems, and will make people willing to make sacrifices and changes for the betterment of our oceans. This led me to ocean recreation. What better way for people to physically enjoy our oceans and beaches and form a connection? A study done in 2001 concluded that 89 million Americans, or 43% of the population, participated in at least one marine outdoor activity from 1999 to 2000. When I think of ocean recreation, I immediately think of surfing, but that requires each individual to invest serious time developing surfing skills. I wanted to appeal to the masses, so I thought of something you don't need significant skill to do.
Paddleboarding. Paddleboarding.
Paddleboarding.
Paddleboarding.
That's right, paddleboarding. You can stand, kneel, or sit depending on your balance skills and board size. Anyone can paddle out and have a great time. With this, I decided to launch a self-experiment and test my theory. Does participating in ocean recreation help form a stronger connection to the ocean? I enjoy beach runs and tanning on the sand, but in truth, my connection to the ocean doesn't run deep. Over the course of 5 weeks, I plan to determine how my connection to the ocean would develop. My friends graciously agreed to let me use their boards. I had limited experience paddleboarding before this project. So this is I've gone paddleboarding 2 times now, and it's been really cool both times. My roommate Jacqueline went with me. She is an experienced paddleboarder, so it was nice going with someone who knows what they're doing. It helped me be calm in the water. We both went and we borrowed our friends' boards and we went out in the water, and it was such a surreal experience. It was not what I thought it was going to be at all. It was weird kind of like being on the board on the surface of the water of it all, but knowing that there was so much going on underneath. One of the days we went out, we took the GoPro, and it was really sunny, really clear. There were no waves. You could literally look down and like see the kelp forests. I've never seen the water so clear in Santa Barbara, and that was a really cool experience. I also saw a lot of birds. I didn't know that there were so many birds that would go and just sit out on the water, but they just kind of like fly literally right by you and then sit out on the water. And Jacqueline and I were just talking about paddleboarding because she has a couple friends that do it competitively, and we were talking about like how it just developed into this full-blown phenomenon. Now it's a competitive sport. There's paddles like from the mainland to the Channel Island and back. There's like a race. And I didn't know about any of that stuff, so that's something that would be cool to look into. And Also just got me thinking about like the origins of paddleboarding, because I feel like you hear about surfing a lot, but like what's the difference, where did it come from, stuff like that. So thought it'd be cool to look into further, and I'm looking forward to going paddleboarding again. After doing some research, it's hard to know when stand-up paddleboarding really began. Ancient cultures used boards propelled with a long stick to fish, travel, make war, and even ride waves. Here's an example of the Chan-Chan in Peru who still use paddle boards to fish. The Hawaiians pioneered stand-up paddleboarding for pure fun. Duke Kahanamoku, the most famous of the Waikiki Beach Boys, was said to use an outrigger paddle to help propel his heavy board into the velvety waves of Waikiki. He inspired John Zapataki to try stand-up paddleboarding. Today, John is considered the father of modern stand-up surfing.
So I went and talked to Duke. He said, well, get yourself a paddle and do it. I did that, and I've been doing it ever since. I've been surfing out here now for 65 years, and probably 55 years I've been using the paddle. And it changed my whole life. I've been stand-up paddling ever since.
Since his start in 1940, John is the oldest stand-up paddleboarder in the world and the oldest regular surfer in Waikiki. John still goes out stand-up surfing in Waikiki a few times a week and is an icon to the modern-day surfers and watermen. It wasn't until recently, however, that paddleboarding went viral. In 1995, Dave Kalama and Laird Hamilton, two celebrated watermen, were doing a photo shoot for Oxbow, a French surf brand. In an interview with Sup Surf Mag, Dave recalls the surf being small and getting bored. He decided to take canoe paddles out to fool around with. They were too short and caused the pair to have to bend over, but regardless, Dave and Laird had a great time, and Laird went and had some taller paddles made the next day. After that, they just started doing it more and more. This is one of the key events that sparked the rapid rise in exposure and popularity of modern stand-up paddleboarding. Unlike surfing, it doesn't require a good surf. One can paddleboard at any time and still enjoy his or herself. This marks the main appeal. And furthermore, Dave's interview shed light on why surfers would choose to paddleboard instead of surf. According to Dave, stand-up paddleboarding helped him take his surfing skills to another level. It got his legs stronger, and riding his 9-foot long board was then easier to maneuver or surfing compared to a 12-foot paddleboard. So I want to do a final video reflecting on my paddleboarding experience overall. I've gone paddleboarding 7 times over the course of 5 weeks. It's been an awesome experience. It's been a little difficult fitting it in with my class schedule and things like that, especially having to borrow boards. That makes it a little more challenging. I found that I enjoy going paddleboarding with friends because it just enhances the experience overall, especially taking the GoPro out with a bunch of people and kind of messing around. It's really fun. Someone can stay on the board while you go underwater, things like that. It's just fun. And so I've had some really positive experience and some negative experiences. My most positive experience would be when I went sunset paddleboarding with my roommates Lizzie and Jacqueline. That was beautiful to say the least, but the main reason it was so positive was because we saw dolphins, which is pretty rare. That was an indescribable experience to know that you're just paddling along and then underneath you there's like a whole pod of dolphins just swimming by, and then I even got on footage because I had the GoPro. That was really, really cool. It's very lucky to have experienced that. My most negative experience would be having to deal with the tar a lot. I know I've been on the beaches, like run on the beach and had the tar stick to my shoes, but I never thought that it was actually physically in the water. When you paddle out to Devereaux Point, you reach a point where you're kind of close to the oil rig, and the tar is literally, and the oil is just sitting on the surface of the water. So you're paddling and you're trying to avoid it. You don't want to get it on your paddle, and it just slips right on your board and then off and kind of sticks to it. It's just gross. It makes the experience a little worse. It makes you want to get out of that spot, even though it's beautiful underneath. That kind of sucked. And then one day we also saw this, when I was out with like Jordan and Quinn and Jacqueline, we saw like a huge tarp that had flown from a house, or like someone had left it on the beach, and it was swept into the water.
Trash! Shame on you! Pollution!
Just little things like that, some trash in the water, kind of makes you be like, why? Why do you have to do that? Reflecting on how it's affected my connection to the ocean, I would say that paddleboarding has definitely increased my connection to the ocean and has definitely made it deeper. I just enjoy the ocean more because I have a different way of enjoying it, whereas before I would just like run on the beach. Physically being in the water and being surrounded by the ocean and all of the wildlife, it's a really cool experience, and it makes you care more about for example, after seeing the dolphins swim by, I was like, oh, I hope they don't get tar on themselves when they sprout up over past Devereaux Point, or oh, I hope they don't run into any trash, things like that. It just kind of puts things in perspective. I really believe that I will continue paddleboarding, because especially after encouraging all my friends to go out, I think I made them enjoy it more, and I think I helped their connection to the ocean, so it kind of feels like a chain reaction. If one person does it, then we encourage the other person to do it, and then more. So I feel like in our free time, instead of being like, let's just watch a movie or watch a show, we'll be like, no, we have some time. Let's go paddleboarding. We know we can do it in like an hour before we have class. It's a beautiful day out. Let's go enjoy it. So that was a huge takeaway for me, and yeah, thanks for watching.